So, day 2 in Kansai. I am in the delightful Ibis budget Osaka, staring at a broken foosball table in the lobby. Some very aggressive defending or attacking has gone on, and it is no longer functional. Waiting for His Highness, of course. Now, a famously detailed morning regime, and there was a bit of a debate last night about how to pronounce the name of this hotel, so we'll just see if when he comes down there's been any form of climb down, or he's just had a good sleep and time to think about it. Great day yesterday, and hoping for a similarly fulfilling day today. We've already talked about it on the previous episode, but certainly I'd say Spot has to be a highlight, just for all the reasons detailed in the previous episode. So that's definitely one that sticks with me on day 2. But as ever, who knows what is ahead of us today. Could be bitter disappointment. Could be utter fulfillment, or a poignant cocktail of both. Anyway, T-1 minute, and one thing I'll give him is he's pretty punctual. Okay, day 2, just want to get some reflections very quickly, some thoughts, bearing in mind that we would have already talked about them on the podcast, so there's no big spoilers. And also just tell people where we are.
We already talked about them on the podcast? Oh, we're recording from the future. It's 8:30.
So,
you and your content.
That's how recording works.
Time slip content.
Just tell people where we are.
We are in the lobby of the Ibis Hotel, Umeda, in beautiful Osaka. Feeling good, feeling rested. I'm feeling rested. You look like shit. But
I don't.
You're a little tired.
Still tired?
Yeah? No, I'm just fucking with you. No, you look great. And ready. Yeah, I feel it. Surprisingly Genki. Well, we didn't hit it hard last night at all. I was in bed by 11.
Yeah,
usual for us on the first
likewise,
night.
I actually got a full laundry run done last night after I came in.
Seriously?
Yeah.
With your umeshu from Lawson's?
and a little choya umeshu just to wash it all down. Not the washing, obviously, just drank it. Good, that's good. Yeah, no, I feel good. I'm just it's just that sort of mid-trip utter exhaustion. But looking forward to a impossibly thick piece of toast and some coffee.
Oh, yes. We're
potentially in Monterey.
Off to Monterey, and which is, I believe, at 8:30 open. So one of the earliest jazz queso openings I think we've ever found. Nothing earlier. Oh no, it was Powell and Seitzman. It was 8 o'clock. But anyway, yeah, let's do it.
It's off on one. I think that's known as the weave. That's what they call that now, isn't it?
The weave?
Yeah, you not heard about the weave?
No.
I'll not get into it. It'll only make you mad.
Yeah. Again, you and your content.
Okay, welcome everyone to episode 94. 94 of the Tokyo Jazz Joints podcast. We are still in Kansai. It is day 2 of our trip, and as ever, much like this morning, I'm up bright and early in the lobby, possibly waiting for James. James, how are you this week before we jump into the episode?
Feeling great. Positive Pete.
You're very excited about the sumo.
Positive Pete is back.
Very much
very excited about the sumo. I wish I was. It really, probably the only possible thing that's ever made me want to go back to London is seeing these sumo pictures, to be honest. So, I think it's great. It has been. You know, it's funny, Philip. I was reading about it, and this is literally only the second time they've ever done a tournament outside of Japan, and the first one was in London like 35 years ago. So it is a really big deal, and from all those pictures, it seems like the locals are absolutely loving it.
But you know, if you go back to London, they won't be there, right?
Well, that's probably why I wouldn't be going back for a bunch of other reasons that we will not go into on this podcast. But no.
Well, it's funny actually because I was in London, obviously, as you know, last weekend doing kind of a collaboration with a bar called Waltz Bar, run by a very lovely Japanese man called Gento Torigata, and it was kind of in collaboration with Toki, which is obviously a Suntory, one of Suntory's brands, whiskey brands. But I hadn't really kind of like completely, I hadn't quite twigged. I'd seen a couple of things popping up on Instagram, and then Raf from Suntory had like mentioned something about they had a bar at the sumo or something, and then you were kind of posting a couple of things about it, and then just absolutely madly that morning when I went out, I came out of the subway station at Kensington on I think on the Monday morning, and there was just it was just a sumo, it was just a rikishi just standing there, and I walked straight past like it was a normal thing, and then I got out of the gates and went back and sort of snapped a photo, and then I was absolutely furious the rest of the day that I hadn't stopped to speak to him.
Yeah, they would have loved
what are you doing?
Yeah, well,
what are you doing?
It's funny because you think about it, like here, we've seen, living in Japan, you see them sometimes on the train, especially if you're in that part of town. It's really not that big of a deal anymore, but imagine you're just going about your business, going to work in London, and you come around a corner and you see 5 ginormous guys in kimonos, and they've got their hair in the top knot. I mean, you would just be like, what is going on? The sheer size and the visual appearance of them in the kimonos, and the fact that they were all so much goofing around for the pictures, breaking away from that the usual sort of stoic face that they have. I mean, it was
kind of interesting, right? That freedom, I think, because I mean, if you're not a sumo fan and you're not a student of Japanese culture, I mean, sumo is obviously the traditional sport of Japan, but it's been through a series of scandals. It was considered a very, very closed world, and as a result, it was basically dying off. And so I just thought it's really interesting not only to see the fact that it's in London, but also just the hype. I mean, the BBC are showing the tournament live on iPlayer. So, it's just a really interesting move in the era of like global sports and televised sports and so on,
Well, I think they realized that exactly like you said, it was losing popularity. Most of the champions were now coming from Mongolia. Young Japanese guys didn't want to do it because it was too strict. I mean, one sumo younger, sort of apprentice was even killed by bullying. It was a lot of horrible stuff. And so the Sumo Kyokai, the association, it's their 100th anniversary this year. They obviously have some new blood. They've got some new thinkers, and they're like, okay, look, we can expand this. We can keep the traditional part, but sort of like get it out there. And it's so far, totally a smashing success from what you see online. I think all the seats were sold out almost instantly in London. Where's at the Royal? Is it the Royal Albert Hall, right? The round.
So the Royal Albert Hall, and I would not be surprised if it becomes a regular, if not annual thing. I mean, I was chatting with the guy Raf from Suntory, and he had some pictures because I think they were running a bar and obviously sponsoring the event, and he pulled out some pictures of them building the ring, and it was in because I think all the soil or all the earth was imported from Japan, so it was like thousands of tons of earth was brought to kind of create this the sumo ring inside the Royal Albert Hall. It's just wild, like really incredible kind of thing. And also just the visibility, I think, to see, like you said, just these guys like buying bags. I know you posted a picture this morning of them drinking Guinness as well.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. And then one popped up as well where they got to Stonehenge, and they were doing the goofy pictures of, putting Stonehenge between their thumbs in the distance. I mean, all the classics.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, cool. All the classics. So, no, and it just seems like from reading a lot of the people in England, in London, their comments, it's, maybe they'd heard of sumo wrestling, but they'd never seen it up close. They're really into the sport itself. You notice how they're keeping it very quiet, though, that women are not allowed to enter the dojo. That might not go over so well in progressive UK. So
yeah, well,
I think they'll give it
that
one a secret for now.
Give it 5 years; it'll probably be fairly acceptable.
Getting
the way things
a little
are going,
too Japanese there with that custom, but yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say we're heading the same way, so potentially it could be quite a popular route. Quite a popular ritual in a few years. But anyway, talking of foreigners goofing around in another country, let's crack on with day 2 in Osaka.
Professional transition.
Yeah, well,
Oof, damn, love it. We're in Osaka. We're still in Osaka in the north part of town in, again, a kind of a residential area. We'll ignore the fact that you implied I was late to the lobby that morning. I was not. We were right on time. We were early, too, because this place opened at, I've got in the notes that it opens at 8:30, but when we went in, I think it opened even earlier than that. There were already customers in there.
There was a couple of customers, yeah. The photo I have from the outside is 9:30 by the time we got to it. But like you said, it's on this kind of, again, fairly, probably what at one time was an incredibly modern building, but now looks, so kind of dated and so Showa. But it was, to all intents and purposes, a kind of a neighborhood cafe. But there were those little archaeological signs, like the sign outside, for example, has this beautiful font which says Monterey, which is the name of the place, where the O is replaced by a lemon, sort of like a precursor to the Stone Roses logo. But it does say jazz. It does say jazz as well on the sign. So, and obviously when we went in, there were
of course, Monterey is again kicking off a little bit of a California theme for this episode, as we'll get to in the next place too. But
a good point. Yeah,
jazz Monterey.
Nice,
yeah. So it's possible that the owners had been there. But like you said, I mean, this is a very deep neighborhood place in Osaka. And when we walked in, my first thought was just like beautiful Showa era design in there with the wood, this kind of fake stained glass, in the back, tables plus a counter, a lot of plants I've got in the notes. This was a very planty place. And again, like you said, a couple local guys sitting in there with their newspapers having their toast sets. So, it had that feel of walking in. It was like, okay, this is completely the pre-digital era and we're back in Showa, Japan.
Yeah, it's one of those places, like when you look at some of the furniture in these places, one of these kind of Showa aesthetics is this old, really dark, heavy kind of wood. And if you replaced a few things, you could be in a kind of a Wild West saloon. Sometimes the way it's kind of set out and it has these bar stools, and it's such an interesting place. But there wasn't really, like, you had to really look hard. I mean, apart from the sign on the outside, I'm just trying to zoom in here in a photo. Oh no, it's just a picture of a vase of flowers. There was, just above our heads, there was a couple of really nice old JBL speakers that had seen many, many years, pretty grotty kind of grills on them, but they were still playing a little kind of BGM jazz, but there wasn't much. I suspect it was maybe at one time much more of a jazz key. So now it's very much a neighborhood kind of cafe. And I think we both got the morning set, which was a staggering 480 yen each. I mean, how do you make money?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, there was, as you said, the emphasis does seem to be more on the breakfast and lunch sets, because I've got the picture right above the table we had in the corner. It was basically like 4 bulletin boards and a poster, and it was all about just the various sort of breakfast and lunches. And, what I think it was, you could get like some shakes or frappe and even like a beer. Nothing at all about the jazz except for those like sort of like, kind of like JBL, like you mentioned, that gives the game away. It was like, okay, these guys are a jazz place, and they were playing jazz, but it was a rather low volume. But I definitely got the feeling that it was more about breakfast and then the lunch sets, and they closed pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, just for people, it depends where you're listening, but just to give you a sense of how insane that is, at the current exchange rate, that's €2.70, £2.30, or $3.19. If you're in the US, which, and like, I don't know about you, but you could not get even a black American coffee or a filter coffee here for less than £3. So
even given that prices in Japan are cheaper than in the West now, that is exactly what we're saying. That is like North Osaka neighborhood place. And that's not a price that I would even pay here in Yokohama. It'd probably be close to double that for the morning set, usually around 700-800 yen, something just under 1,000, for the toast and the coffee and some of the side things. So that was shocking. Equally shocking was your, instantaneous theft of my boiled egg that came with my morning
double
sets.
eggs
Without even asking. You just grabbed it and wolfed it down.
I don't think I didn't ask. I think it was just lingering on your plate. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to eat this egg. So I mean, I got an even better deal for 480.
Well, believe me, I rather than watch you eat a second boiled egg with a smile on your face, that's when I turned my head to look at the neighboring guys who were having an interesting discussion about the news. They both had their newspapers out, and again, though, Philip, this is the thing. It's whether it's a jazz cafe or just your morning set kisa like this one. I just love the fact that these two seemingly old friends come in with their newspapers and just are sitting there talking about the news and laughing, not a cell phone in sight. There was just something really sweet about it. I had a good feeling about Monterey, and the couple that ran it as well were pretty nice. I think at first she just gave us a surprised look, but not in any way, was it cold? And then of course when we spoke to her in Japanese, she was a smile on her face, and I think we even said a hello to the guy behind the counter. He didn't look like he was doing much work, to be honest. It looked like his wife was doing almost everything, including running the kitchen. He just seemed to be sitting there with the newspaper as well. But it was a really good start to the day. And I think, like, going back, I was just reading a blog piece on it from a good friend of the show, @Mark Kame Blues. If you are a Japanese reader, you might know @Mark Kame Blues on Twitter. He is a guy, I don't know his real name, but we followed each other for a long time. And in his bio, he just put, old man following jazz kisas around the country since 2015. So obviously you could know right away. I could feel that vibe. But
I was going to say, sounds like you could write our bio.
Sounds like
well.
our bios. But yeah, it was through his sort of like blog notes and Twitter that I'd first heard of Monterey. And then you would put it on the list as well, independently. So, obviously it's a place that people do know in Osaka. And, look, if you're in the area, it's a really good spot to start the day of like jazz kisa wandering because they open early. The coffee was good and you can get some good toast. But yeah, don't go in expecting a lot of deep jazz records to be playing. Although we didn't go in the afternoon. Who knows? Maybe they crank it up then. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I imagine it goes absolutely mad in the afternoons of free jazz.
Get some Anthony Braxton on, yeah.
It was, I think I don't seem to have any photographic record. It must have been, or I must have been feeling it that morning. I don't have too many photos of it, but there was one poster I think we located that sort of indicated the jazz along with the speakers. But like you say, I mean, it's just, again, if you've been to these kind of places, you'll know what we're talking about, but it really is, it's such a cliche, but it's really like stepping back in time, because as mad and crazy and over sort of full of overstimulation as Japan is, these places are just like outside time. People come in, like you say, read a newspaper. They're smoking first thing in the morning, having their coffee. And it's just, and it may be a precursor often to a day working a job you don't want to do and with a boss that you hate, but like they are just this kind of little oasis, and also, provide like sustenance for the day ahead. And it's sort of a fascinating place. And I think, we've been to 2 or 3 of these on different trips that we've been on, but probably this was definitely one that I would say, comes in under the umbrella of being like a jazz kisa, albeit, in a very almost adjacent way at this point, but fascinating place, which led us on to our next place, which I would say in contrast is probably, big statement alert, is probably aesthetically one of the most incredible places we've been. I mean, I harbor this sort of secret desire to be like a locations manager for film or TV, and I think this is one of those places that, like, I mean, it was like stepping in to a studio or a film set. It was just incredible,
and
right?
even deeper into the sort of, if you're familiar with the Kansai region, you know that Osaka and Kyoto
kind of along a north-south sort of train line axis, the Keihan line. And so this town that we stopped in was just at the northern edge of Osaka, but sort of deep into the suburbs. Hirakatashi is the name of the town, the city in Osaka Prefecture, and was quite a walk from the station. A place that, Philip, I don't think I had ever heard of here before. Because remember, I told you I used to go down to my wife's grandmother's place once or twice a year for many years, right next to Hirakatashi. So on that train line, and I did all the jazz places that that we've talked about over the years, and I never had heard of Santa Monica. This is the next joint we're talking about, called Santa Monica. And as we walked up to it, right away I looked at the outdoor sign, and I think we've talked about it here on the show, Philip. In the last calendar year, I've spent about 5 months in total, on and off, in Los Angeles, and my first time really, in Southern California. And immediately that font of the sign, of the shop sign, just it took me right back to LA, man, because I have pictures of my first week when I went to Los Angeles of all these. To me, it looks like an Art Deco font. I don't know if that's accurate. You probably know better. But it's the kind of older font that you don't really see in the East Coast anymore, where, in New York, where I'm from. But in California, you see it all the time on old shops, cafes. I even have a great picture of an optometrist that has it. It's kind of this, it's just a very unique looking font. And this place in Hirakatashi, Santa Monica, had it beautifully. So right away, outside of the shop, I was already super excited. And that's, as you said, before we even went in, and it was just like going on to a movie set.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think if you're into fonts, don't quote me on this, but it's the closest thing would be like something like a Broadway font. I think it is on Microsoft Word or on Google Docs. I think it's that kind of thing. You'll know it from the photographs immediately when you see it. But I mean, what it also bears stating is that the whole front wall is glass. So it's not walled. The entire front wall is a glass door with glass windows on either side. And if you think of kind of 50s, American 50s movies, like James said, on the West, like you said, on the West Coast, that's what it looks like. And then when you go in, it just maintains that. And we're so used to going into these places and them being kind of, cluttered and, like we were joking last week about the kind of laminated, printed out signs. Whereas this place, now it's been going for 48 years, and you go in through this glass door, and again, it's all just this kind of like pistachio colored, kind of like pleather bunket seating. And on each of the glass tables, there's a little sugar bowl with like an orange perspex top, and then when you sit down there, you're facing this counter with, again, the kind of like the bar stools with the kind of chrome back on them that you can sit against. And
don't forget
the
menu. Don't forget the menu on each table is a little cassette case. It's incredible.
That's right,
I've got a great picture of it. It's a little cassette case. It says on the side where you'd have the album title, right? It just says Santa Monica, Coffee and Jazz. And then on the back, it's got the menu, coffee, tea, milk, whatever you want. And so that's the menu. And it was just like, it kind of reminded me, again, when I was in California and I went on one of those studio tours, and they take you to all the different like fake sets, like, oh, this is like a New York street or this is whatever. And we happened to see one of the places where I think it was Back to the Future, where they made the diner in the 1950s, and it's kind of all like the vintage type stuff where they would shoot scenes and they use it in multiple movies. That's what it looked like, but in real life. I mean, it really looked like one of these California, like sort of like diners or coffee shops from that era. Obviously, no surprise when we finally talked to the owner. I think it was his wife who served us, and she was very, very smiley and chatty.
Well, actually, he wasn't there, right?
He came in
initially,
later. Yeah, he came in later, and he said that he sort of like had this. I mean, just fascination with the West Coast, basically. And, Philip, it's funny because we've been to so many places in Japan, jazz and not jazz, where the whole Americana thing, especially for men of a certain age here, the whole like Route 66 and Marilyn Monroe and all of that stuff. You see it like we talked about in Tea Garden a couple episodes ago. But I don't think we've ever seen someone take it to this sort of angle where they did the sort of the whole furniture and decor to make it look like California. I don't recall any place that did that.
No, and I've completely made up those chrome handles on the backs of the chairs because I'm looking at the other photos now and it's not. So I really got carried away there. But yeah, I mean, I know he had been to. I think he said he. So she was there, served us. We sort of chatted a bit, and then he arrived. And I'm just looking, even behind the counter. Obviously, the speakers are kind of built into the wall. He even has like a tape to tape recorder. Like a reel-to-reel tape recorder as well, which I'm sure at some point was being played. But I think if you remember, it was all a little bit distracted because when he came in, there was some sort of... I think we were really lucky with timing, actually, because as soon as we left, they got ready to close up. There was some sort of family emergency or somebody was ill and had to go to hospital or something. Do you remember? Because there was a lot of talk and chat at the counter. And then when we left, it was like, okay, thanks for coming. And I feel like as soon as we went, they were like, right, come on. And
He got a phone call and it was unclear who it was about. But yeah, definitely sounded like that, like a family member is... fairly in a bad state, and we're going to go over to the house or the hospital or wherever. And so, you're totally right. If we had just been 20 minutes, half an hour later, it would have been closed with probably no sign up. We might have even known if they were still in business. So that was, we really, really lucked out. I mean, because before that thing happened with the phone, you forgot that he had a bunch of records in the back.
Oh, I didn't forget. Don't you worry.
That he was selling. I picked up an Art Pepper record, and I can't remember what you bought. In fact, I think you stole one from me. You saw it first. What was the one now? I do remember.
I tell you what I bought, and again, just for let me just get on XE here. So for the grand sum of £3.96, €4.56, or $5.31,
it was the Ornette Coleman.
Love Call by Ornette Coleman, the original Blue Note album.
Yes, you got it. I totally would have jumped on that, but you found it first, bastard.
I mean, well, it's because you don't like this. You don't descend when you see like a box of records. Like you don't descend like a vulture the way that I do. I'm so excited.
Try to stay on budget. I ended up buying the Art Pepper anyway, but
that's true. So also, it's the carrying it around too, right?
We talked about the prices though, because I mean, it wasn't like his stuff was junk. It was in pretty good condition. And you just got the feeling that he just, whatever, he doesn't like it anymore. It's a little that, especially that Ornette. Maybe it's a bit loud for him. Who knows?
I think sometimes also it's a slight harbinger of. Like somewhere like Bud, I know he was selling records in Osaka, and I feel like he's not going anywhere soon. But I think sometimes you feel like it's a little bit of a harbinger of, kind of starting to wind down. And like you say, maybe those kind of records are not ones that are being played much. And,
right.
And I think we've seen it in a few places, most notably Bud, I think, and also here. And he had a good selection. Like I bought 3 or 4 records, and I think part of it was also not wanting to have to carry them around. I've got a photograph of you going up the stairs after we left Santa Monica with like a paper shopping bag, which is I think what you carried it around for a while, right?
I think
until it broke.
He gave me, yeah, I think it was like all they had right behind the counter, and so because we couldn't fit it all in one bag, because you bought like 3 or 4, and I think I did. I walked around with that until later in the afternoon when it started to break. Yes, I remember that. Send me that picture. Send me that picture later.
But like you said, we weren't familiar. I think Kusanose has documented Santa Monica actually in his most recent publication. But it's obviously been there for a long time. And I think, again, it's maybe a name that we had on a list or it came onto this particular list. But again, there's something about the name. You're like, yeah, sounds a bit, yeah. But I mean, again, to have made the effort to go out there and to come across a place like this, I think, which I suspect may not necessarily be there much longer, is kind of incredible. So
one of the highlights of the Kansai really trip, and just again, I mean, I know it's we say it all the time, but an only in Japan kind of place. I mean, it just this random distant suburb of Osaka, and they've just got this remarkable place, in every way. So yeah, I totally loved it. I think we walked out of there, and we must have talked about it for about 20 minutes on the way back to the station. Quite far to the station, my memory actually. So it's not easy to get to. It's not a place that you'd ever stumble by. You have to be looking for it to go there.
Yeah, one of those neighborhoods. It's like there's so many of them all over Japan. Where you're like, you sort of you're like, I don't know, like, am I near the station? Am I far? Like, there's never any indication of like, am I getting any closer? Because all the streets look the same, you know, like, and you sort of turn right and it's like the same kind of streets. You turn left, it's the same kind of streets again. The only indication ever is like when the traffic or the number of people gets a little bit heavier, but definitely worth doing the walk. And that brought us actually then back into, actually we headed on then to Kyoto City proper. And again, I mean, if you want to talk about highlights, I mean, what are two things, James? Like, I mean, if you had to combine the two things that I love more than many other things, what would they be?
Well, I would probably say hair gel and baggy pants, but after that, it would definitely be what we discovered in the next shop, and it would be John Coltrane and spicy curry.
I mean, this place, I've got two notes for this place. The first one says yum, and then the second one says also what? And that's all I've got. I mean, this is a place that I think this is one of these ones where like we have this list and then I've got this sort of thing of like, just in case we miss something else. And I think what I had done at the time, I think we're looking for somewhere else in Osaka. That's what it was. So I'd literally put Coltrane in Japanese into Google Maps and this place came up. And we were like, oh, well, look, we're in Kyoto. This place is... And when we got to it, I mean, it is literally a curry shop called Coltrane. and it's not a coincidence because everything is branded with Coltrane. So you sit down, you get this, there's when you go in, there's basically records along one wall, the kind of the kitchen bit that you would get in many Japanese eateries on the other side, and then that's separated by a kind of an L-shaped counter. And when you sit down, there's a spoon that is wrapped with for hygiene purposes, wrapped with a little paper cover that says Coltrane on it. There's a paper placemat which says Coltrane, I Love Supreme, Blue Train, and Favorite Things. When you turn around to your right, there's a frame picture of Blue Train. And then bizarrely at the back, because I guess it's Kyoto and why would you not, there's a kind of one of these enclosed gardens. No. It has a glass.
I forgot about that.
So it has a glass wall at the back of the curry place, but there's this kind of like external garden, but it looks like it's in a glass box. And then you sit down and order. And I think even you would admit it was quite tasty.
It was.
I mean,
It was. I think I had the spicy horenso. You know me. If the curry's not spicy, I'm not touching it. But here, listen, Philip. This tells you how great it was to sit there in the Coltrane curry shop. I think it was about 1:30. I don't even remember what time it was. Yeah, about 1:30 or so.
12:49.
So I broke my no beer before 4 p.m. rule, and I think we might have shared a big bottle of Heartland because it was that great, you know. And it was packed too. Every seat was taken. You know, it was only about maybe a 10-seater, but I mean, it was clearly like a place that people came for. I think more people were coming there for lunch than for the Coltrane connection. But you know, definitely on a lot of the jazz blogs, definitely on a lot of the jazz blogs, though I've seen people mentioning it. So just again, one of these, just, you know, worlds coming together, man. I mean, the only thing that would have made it, I think we would never have left, is if they'd had the baseball playing on mute on a TV behind the counter. You know what I mean? Then we could just,
like you say, though,
long, you know.
Like you say, it's one of those things. It is like worlds coming together. It's like someone, because it was so bizarre. Because I was like, it's like someone sat down and was like, "Now, what can we really just put together here that's going to work and people are going to love?" I know, and I mean, yeah, and it was the fact that it wasn't kind of everything was branded accordingly. It wasn't a case of you know, we'll just call it Coltrane because I like Coltrane. It was all about the curry. I mean, there was some really tasty... I got a couple of things on the menu. I've got this bacon and pineapple. That's presumably the one you didn't have. But I've sent you a little video of mine there just so you can appreciate the breaking of the boiled egg. That was that would have been my third egg of the day, was it?
That's just increasing my distance from you as we walked after this place. Philip
walked in front of me.
Philip, breaking news, and you're not going to like it. Breaking news:
it's closed.
Coltrane is closed.
Are you serious?
It's closed. I was checking the notes as I always do before we record, doing the research.
My days.
I was opening my my websites, my maps, trying to get everything in order. Now sometimes you can't trust Google when it says closed or permanently closed. Sometimes it's not there, but the website's gone. I called the phone number. The phone number is not connecting.
Oh my God.
So, it's really strange because I can't find any other news in Japanese about it, looking it up, right, of what it says about it closing. So, I'm going to try to look around a little bit more, but maybe they've moved. I don't know. Look, that location in Kyoto, I can't remember the street name now, but it's a place where like a cajillion tourists are going to be walking by in central Kyoto, right? And so I would think, especially with the tourist boom, rents could easily have gone up. Maybe they decided to move somewhere cheaper. Not sure, but I looked at their Instagram. I looked at Tabelog in Japanese. Can't find any update at all. But
you wouldn't change a website if you moved. You wouldn't. You wouldn't.
Yeah, true.
You wouldn't change a website if you'd moved. Well, you see, I mean, in my excitement, I've literally that is literally what I've got for notes. But I did have to ask. I think so. As I was leaving, I did have a. I think you were maybe outside by that point, but I did chat to the guy who was the kind of head chef, because I said to him, why is it called Coltrane? And he said, because the owner loves jazz and loves Coltrane. So it wasn't a random thing. It was sort of inspired by that. But that's absolutely. I mean, that is proper breaking news. I'm absolutely devastated. I mean, I'm delighted that we got to it, and it just makes me realize again. It makes you think, like, how transient some of these places are now. It's not. That is perhaps an exception to the rule, because we're also talking about places that have been there for 40 years or 50 years, and this place, I think he had said, like, it hadn't been open that long. It was only like a year, if even that.
No. And remember, Kyoto is. I mean, well, speaking of old, I mean, look, we've been to noodle shops in Kyoto that are 300 years old, but I mean, it's. I think. Oh, that's right. It's right on that little Takase. Well, they call it the river, the Takase River. It's more like a little canal walking street. A little bit west of the river. It's a great spot. There's a cajillion places.
It's a beautiful location.
Eat around there. So I mean, I can only think that maybe they just they couldn't make enough to cover the rent. I mean, because everything that you read online, the comments in Japanese from people posting reviews and whatnot, it's always like, I had to wait to get in. It just seems like it would be packed all day long at that location.
It was rammed when we got there. I mean, we got there, I think there was maybe one other customer, because we got there, I think, fairly promptly, but
it was
like,
it was
busy.
We were sort of in
like
between.
It was a full lunch service.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't like prime lunchtime either. I mean, well, Saturday you'd probably get people eating it all time of the day, but I mean, yeah, just curious as to why it wasn't able to stay open. I'll try to poke around and see if I can find some more, because I'm really curious. But I knew that would give you a bit of a shock. Yeah, when I opened the website and I got the 403 ETA, and I was like, oh no, are you kidding? So yeah, bummer.
Yeah, well, it will forever be enshrined in this photo I have of the cover, the kind of the boxed garden with the blue train. But yeah, God, I'm gobsmacked. You really, I mean, that's the first time your breaking news has ever been actually quite good and exciting.
Nonsense.
Well, not exciting. I shouldn't say exciting, but it's devastating. I might just have to call it there. We just say goodbye. I need to go and spend some time just in a dark room with transition, playing transition.
I was going to say go and cook up some tonkatsu curry tonight in your.
Well, I do have some Japanese curry roux downstairs. Maybe I'll do that.
Great,
and I'll just put on transition.
I'll stick with the Coltrane, but yeah, you go for the curry roux. That's fine.
Where could I get some eggs? Anyway, listen. So yeah, well, I mean, it's genuinely a fascinating thing, because we were kind of blown away by the fact that it existed at all. I mean, it seemed almost like a joke to me how sort of on brand it was for me. I mean, probably the most likely. I mean, we do know as well in Japan that obviously, unless you take on something that's beyond your means in the first place, that rents don't tend to kind of soar or suddenly get increased in the way that they do perhaps in like Europe or parts of Europe certainly, or in America. They tend to be more fixed and a bit more stable. So I mean, the most sort of plausible explanation would perhaps be that the owner, something happened to the owner and then the business closed, because the young guy was sort of categorical that it wasn't like, he was running it, but he wasn't the owner. But I mean, interestingly, on the door as well, I mean, this is another aspect of it which we hadn't considered. It's only open from 11:30 to 3:30, because I don't know if you remember, we had to sort of time the order of places that we went to in the trains to make sure that we got to Coltrane. I think it was only that day. I think that the next day it was closed or something. So it could be something to do with that as well. I mean, that's not a lot of time to make your money, 4 hours a day. But
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's not a great business strategy then. But I mean,
the great Coltrane curry mystery.
Just everything. That's the thing. Everything about the place seems like it would be a smash hit, right? I mean, the location, the good food.
The food was
like
great
us
too.
coming
Yeah,
for the jazz. So it's just like, real mystery. But our last place of the day then is a place that no worries about not being long lasting, because it's one of the, how would you call it? Just one of the classics of the Kansai region, if not all of Japan. I believe in one of those recent polls in the Nikkei Shimbun here, they had it as their number one spot in all of Western Japan. I don't know if I would put it at number one, but it's certainly a classic. And we had been there previously on separately. It was our first time going together, and it's the classic Yamatoya.
Yeah, sorry. Just still thinking about culture.
No, you're stuck on the curry. Jesus.
Yamatoya is a place that I went to years ago with my good friend Tom. Actually, I think it was a kind of a farewell trip really for me. I went down to Kansai and I went to quite a few places with him before, or not, a few months before leaving Japan back in 2017. And I had included one photograph of the outside. It has a very unusual, kind of very 60s looking sign of the piano, kind of hand-drawn piano on the sign down this alleyway. And I included that in the Tokyo Jazz Joints book. But that photograph is probably not representative of the place, because when you go in, it has this almost kind of like sort of Edwardian, kind of Victorian or Edwardian tea room feel about it. It has a lot of very old kind of like oak mahogany type furniture. It has all the records are all down one wall behind these kind of in these beautiful glass cases.
A lot of records.
And it's quite a rarefied atmosphere.
A lot of records. I would say the records even exceed the unbelievable amount of teacups that he had behind this beautiful red counter that you mentioned, the red mahogany counter. Because I've got written in the notes, and I'm looking at a couple pictures here, and I'm like, never seen so many English teacups outside of a Maggie Smith show. That's actually written in my notes here. So I must have been feeling a little loopy before I got my caffeine hit. I don't know why.
That's one of your better notes.
Maggie
That's
Smith,
one of your better notes.
Yeah, but no, Yamatoya, great. Opened in 1970. Kumishiro-san, I've got it written down here that he's 83. The blog I'm looking at says he's 85. So maybe we misheard that, or maybe they're wrong. But yeah, we both got 83. And I've got, again, it's one of these kind of Kisa-ten that is, very, very nattily dressed. Taking his time to make the coffee. I mean, he was making the coffee really slow and elaborate. Like, you don't go in there for a quick cup.
It's done over like he does every cup. Like, if you're into coffee, he does every cup is brewed individually in a pot over a gas stove. That kind of really good quality, but quite dark, bitter style of coffee, and served, like you say, in a kind of a china cup with a saucer. He had aged a bit.
Go ahead. Yeah, he said he'd aged a bit.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I thought he had aged a bit. Well, obviously he'd aged a bit because he's 83. But to me, he's one of that kind of group of owners that I have in my mind's eye, I have a particular, so like Natori-san and Bird 56 would be one, he would be another one, Coltrane, Hara-san even from Coltrane, and then just that 5 or 6 years, I mean, I know it's that time of life, but just that 5 or 6 years, like the difference in sort of like, like I remember him as being sort of quite like a little portly, kind of very smiley. He had that sort of like Buddha, kind of like that laughing Buddha energy. That sort of, I have this photograph of him. And then just in that 5 or 6 years, suddenly looks more like an old man and, moving more slowly.
It was even longer since I hadn't been there for 13 years. And so I didn't even recognize him. You know what I mean? Because maybe my memory I don't think I'd had pictures from the time when I had gone there years ago. But like, I mean, yeah, definitely but it was funny because we did talk to him. I don't know if you were taking the pictures, Philip, but I've got some really good notes here in Japanese of things that he was saying, because when I'd asked him about, the place and his age and, it's, oh, okay, so you've got other staff here, but you're still going to work. And he told me in Japanese, he's like, oh, no, I'll be working here and having a good time until I die. And I was like, that's the way you do it. I wouldn't expect any other statement from our jazz kisa masters. As we know, this is their baby. This is part of their life. They're not going to go sit at home. And he also had some, again, to be expected from an older jazz kisa master, rather disparaging comments about a lot of the other shops in town, where he said that basically, I guess if you translated roughly into English, it was just like, yeah, there's other jazz kisas, but they just don't do it properly. And it was like, okay, I know exactly what you mean, or at least what he means by that.
Yeah, I have that in my notes too. So I actually didn't take any photos at all inside. I just wanted to sit and relax and enjoy the place.
It was pretty crowded as well when we were there.
It was busy too, yeah. But I mean, I've photographed it before, so it was a nice opportunity sometimes to go back. But I've got written, which I presume he said, which was Chanto Shitamise, which I think was how he described his place, which is, sort of a rough translation is basically a place done properly.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. He also said he plays mostly older black jazz. He doesn't have many Japanese musicians. That was another thing I heard him say. And then there's some story about 2 floors and giving up on talking, but I don't know what that was. That's all I've got in my notes. Story about 2 floors.
That was when we were talking about the student days, like when he was younger. Back in the 60s and 70s.
Yes.
And that, because back then, remember, like many of the jazz keys, if not all of them, were pretty stern, like in the daytime with the no talking. But then when the students started to come in, that was where they would, sit, smoke, drink, and radicalize their riots against the government, So it was kind of like a separate space where people could sort of hang out and not like, feel that forbidding sort of like sense of silence with the records. I've also got in the notes here that, so at 2:30, old guy at the end of the counter, tall bottle of Lafroig whiskey, glass of peanuts, reading the NHK news on his phone while just digging into some of that hardcore whiskey at 2:30. I mean, listen, I love my scotch, but I'm not going to sit there with a bottle of Lafroig at 2:30 in the afternoon. That was a little bit surprising considering his age. But I mean, again, this is how the old customers do it. He was clearly a regular. It was a bottle keep, of course.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, yeah, it's like, we've had plenty of drinks in jazz places, and one of us at least has quite often been the worse for wear by the end. But like you say, just digging into that bottle keep, and like probably a daily ritual, right? Just comes in there, reads the news, drinks his whiskey. He's just got his thing. It was very cool. I've just got Speakers Are Wild, and then just decor in capital letters. One thing was interesting, though, that he did also mention was he was talking about the history. And he said in 1970 there were over 30 jazz kisa in Kyoto, which I thought was really...
Oh, yes. That's right. That's
interesting.
Right.
I mean, not surprising, perhaps, but like, I mean, just imagine, right? Like, I mean, we think there's a lot now. But like, imagine just rocking up in Kyoto alone and being able to go to 30 places.
That's a lot given the small population. But, again, it makes sense. Kyoto is, I think many of our visitors have been there, but what they might not know that in Japan, in addition just to being the ancient capital and the culture and all that, it's a huge university town. There are several really, really big universities. So there's always a big student population. And that is going to mean at that era, there's going to be jazz kisas. So, it's a shame. I mean, there's not even close to that many left. Philip, there's one other funny thing. I don't know if you went to the bathroom when we were in Yamatoya, but when I went towards the back, And I had to wait for a minute because somebody was in there. And I noticed that there was like a job interview going on between this woman who was dressed for business, and she was interviewing this young guy who looked very nervous, and he was speaking to her like in Keigo in very polite Japanese, and she was asking him questions. And I just found it to be extremely odd that you would come and do a job interview at Jazz Key. So it's like the music is playing. Like, what if it's really loud? Like I've never seen that before.
I mean, it would. I think if anything, it would fill me with confidence that I might be a cert for the job. I think I'd feel more at home there than I would like trussed up in a suit in some office with strip lights. So I mean, yeah, who knows? I mean, it's just, I don't know. Japan's amazing.
Yep.
Funny enough, actually, I don't know if you ever remember. Just to wrap things up for this episode, I in London. I also had the pleasure of meeting up with Yoko, who is kind of the representative for Sega and Sha in outside of Japan. So she kind of runs the global side of things, and she'd kept this very quiet. But she revealed, having me being in touch with her by email back and forward for probably over a year now, about the Japanese version of the book, that she used to work in a jazz kisa. I was
really?
Sorry, what?
Wow.
Which
one?
She sort of said it with a kind of like, sort of like sort of tilted kind of Princess Diana sort of tilted head. And she was like, yeah, I actually used to work in a jazz kisa. And I was like, sorry, how has this not come up?
That's amazing.
At this, until now. Anyway, it turns out it was a place called Blue Note, interestingly, and it was in Kyoto, and she said that I think it closed around 10 years ago.
Oh, it's the Blue Note Narabichi. It's the one. No, Phil. That has to be the one that moved to Nara. Remember?
Oh, you see, that was what I wondered.
That
right?
had to be it. Yes, no, that was a very famous place in Kyoto. It's very likely that she would have worked there when she was a student, for sure.
See, that was my first thought, because I sort of said, "Oh, hang on, do you mean like?" I was like, "Not the one in not Nara, right?" And she was like, "No, Kyoto City."
Yeah.
So that would be the Blue Note she was talking about.
Definitely, yes, yeah. Because there wasn't more. I mean, look, there's 7 Blue Notes in the country, but there was only the one in Kyoto.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Isn't
that cool? Like, so she worked there for like 3 or 4 years. So
two bits of quick Jazz Kisa news updates here that I found this week. One good, one not so good, unfortunately. But our dear friend Moiko from Masako, amazingly, has opened a sister Masako just down the street from the current one in Shimokita. So when you get back,
I saw that. Yeah,
we will have to go. It's a bit of a long story why, but I think we covered it when we did our Masako episode. But just briefly, when the original closed, all of the things that were in the shop, including a whole bunch of beautiful paintings, oil paintings, including that one with Mal Waldron that I love, was in storage up in Hokkaido. And when Moiko opened the current Masako, which is much smaller, she couldn't bring everything down. So she's been able to open a separate space just a little bit up the street from the current one. And basically with the idea as well that because the current one is in an older building, and as you know from living in Shimokitazawa, Philip, all those years, that's a danger of just being, the developers vulturing in, you know what I mean? And it would have to close. Yeah. So she's got the second space open where she's bringing down all of the remaining stuff. I've not been up there. I only just read this the other day. So can't wait to do it. And at least we know now that, Masako will continue even if it's version 3.0. The other news, which is a little bit sad, one of the great collectors and Jazz Kisa masters left us. I believe he was also 83. It was Suzuki-san from Genius. Genius Genius was one of the original Shibuya up in Dogenzaka Kisa back in the golden era when Shibuya had about 15 of them. Obviously, they had to move, when Bubble happened. Genius is now in Nakanosaka near Shinjuku. You and I went there once. But Suzuki-san, really famous for not only being part of the Nakadaira-gun from Shinjuku Doug, but also allegedly having among the biggest collections in Japan of jazz. Somewhere, I've heard anywhere between 25 and 30,000 records.
Wow.
it's good to hear though that his son, who is believed, I don't think I ever met Suzuki-san. He wasn't really going there daily when I used to go to Genius, and he definitely wasn't there when you and I went. But his son is keeping the shop open. The records are in good hands. So that bit of jazz kissa history and culture, thankfully, will survive. But yeah, it was a bit sad to see, and there was a whole bunch of outpouring of respect for him in the Japanese sort of jazz kissa Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
So yeah, job well done to Suzuki-san.
That's sad news. If you want to hear about Genius, I think we do talk about it way back when in one of the earlier episodes. You'll need to probably dig through the notes to find it. But if you're desperate to listen about Genius as well, of course, let us know and we'll figure out which one it was. But yeah, well, look, I mean, there's a lot going in there in that episode. I'm just now on Google Maps on the Street View trying to figure out why Coltrane. Oh, weirdly, it's still there. When I zoom in, but then I was just wondering, could it be the building? Because it is one of those little traditional buildings tucked in between two big apartment blocks. So it could be that the building itself was gone. It's a house.
Again, part of my day job is sometimes looking at real estate stuff in Japan, and Kyoto is tricky because again, Kyoto is really swarming with tourists and developers trying to change things, but it's also an unbelievably conservative. I mean, it's like you take the regular Japanese stereotype of being a conservative country and just multiply it times 100 when you get to Kyoto. So it's a lot slower to get things done. And there's also building regulations. You can't just build a building anywhere because of all the historic stuff. Is it going to ruin the character of the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of complicated things going on down there, but there's also this mad rush to build more hotels, build more accommodation, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and we know that always turns out well, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. Yes, nothing could ever go wrong in Japan, right? Yes.
I wish developers would all just get anyway. Okay. Well, look. On that cheery note, we will talk to you again in episode 95, where we'll be picking up after an afternoon sojourn in Yamatoya, and we'll be moving on to
the rest of the day. The rest of this day, Philip. That's going to be a fun. That's going to be a fun one. So look, you go off and boil yourself an egg and some tonkatsu kare. I'm going to go listen to some Coltrane, and I will talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Cheers. Bye-bye.